Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Tabor. I'm the director of Connecticut History Day, and I'm happy to welcome you to the second installment of our Research Resources podcast. And today I'm really excited to have Jeri Butlien join us. She is the Associate Director of the Hero Center, and she's here today to talk a little bit about her organization and share how resources might be used for History Day researchers. Welcome, Jeri.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for having me here today to introduce Voices of Hope and the Hero Center. Voices of Hope is a nonprofit educational organization that began really in 2008 by descendants of Holocaust survivors. And, as an educational organization, then when the mandate in the state came along for the schools under the social studies, they branched out into having the Hero Center, which stands for Holocaust Education Resource and Outreach Center. So we're the ones who bring survivors or descendant speakers into the classroom. Our reach has impacted over 25,000 students throughout Connecticut thus far.
Great, thank you. And one of the things that a lot of our students will be doing is they might be, individually researching a topic. Can you tell us a little bit about accessing your resources and how, like, if someone was doing a Holocaust topic, how they might reach out to you to find out how to speak to someone?
So directly, they could reach out to me at ctvoicesofhope.org. So that would just be Jeri, Jeri, at ctvoicesofhope.org. Or they could access our entire website, which is at ctvoicesofhope.org. And under there and under the Hero Center tab, there's lots of information at their fingertips about the Connecticut survivors that we built all our testimony around. A little bit of the history of that is originally pre-pandemic, and many of the schools out there I know sent students on a physical field trip to the University of Hartford in partnership with them and the Maurice Greenberg Center for Judaic Studies. There was an entire exhibit around 6 of our Connecticut local survivors in the Museum of Jewish Civilization. Then when the pandemic hit, we took that exhibit virtual. So on our website, you will find the virtual exhibit with testimony and other resources for the partners that we have, both locally, in state, with other federations that might have other survivors from Connecticut featured there, or, really actually worldwide. I was going to limit myself to just within the US. Certainly we have partners such as the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and then others, Echoes and Reflections, but we're really branching out and have partnerships so we could link students up to virtually anyone where they might need to go to find primary sources, the documents, the photographs that they need to be doing their research with.
Well, Jeri, I have 2 questions for you. If you have any slides to share, we can definitely have you share your screen. So at any time, you can absolutely do that. I also wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about how the Voices of Hope came to be, because perhaps some of students don't realize that there are so many Holocaust survivors who came to the United States and specifically to Connecticut. So that'd be really interesting.
Right. So it really did. Voices of Hope began, and let me share my screen. Really, I think as parlor meetings for descendants to meet and talk about the fact that, their own parents were beginning to talk. You have to understand that a lot of Holocaust survivors were reluctant to share their stories, but that the descendants, their children, came together, and as I said, that was about 2008, and met and then created the organization that is Voices of Hope. And primarily we're focused on things like the state commemoration at the Capitol, on Holocaust Remembrance Day, and things of that nature, events like that were commemorative. And then because they set themselves up as a nonprofit focusing on the education, thus the Holocaust Education Resource and Outreach Center was created, so the educational arm. So these slides kind of go into that detail there, and about our reach. And really that reach is important because there's many studies out there. This was from a college survey study, and our impact is important because research has been done to show that students who receive any sort of Holocaust education, Holocaust, genocide, they're 28% more likely to challenge incorrect or biased information generally, and 20% more likely to stand up for those being discriminated against, whatever that injustice, particular brand of hatred is, they're more likely to stand up than students who have not received Holocaust education. And as I mentioned, so this particular slide shows the museum when it was in its heyday before the pandemic. So each one of 6 and then eventually 7 of our local survivors were highlighted with showing photographs, documentation, artifacts from their lives. And then we had to pivot with the pandemic and created CT Remembers the Holocaust, which can be found on our website. And there you'll see the testimony. One unique feature that we've developed now for the classroom is teachers can reserve a trunk of hope, and each one is highlighting one of our different survivors. And in that trunk are replicas of the artifacts that survived the war and the Holocaust and liberation with these amazing folks. And there are QR codes that will flip back to parts of the video testimony that we have, so that the students can really get an in-depth look into the person's life, the meaning behind a particular artifact, something they cherished that they were able to have survived through the war. And this one links to our website where all that information is. I mean, certainly you can play around on the site and see about events. It's always, any of the community events are open. So that's another way for students to feel connected to this topic and be part of that. But certainly under the Hero Center tab is where you'll find all these things, whether it's bios on our speakers, the Trunks of Hope that I mentioned, or particularly that CT Remembers the Holocaust virtual exhibit where they can see the testimony links as well.
I'm fascinated how, in terms of Holocaust survivors, we're now getting to a point in time where we're losing a lot of that generation. How many, this might be a number you don't know, but what, are there still a lot of Holocaust survivors around, or is it becoming a very finite number? And I kind of also, as you were talking, thinking, why Connecticut? Did a large proportion of folks come to our state, or did they go all over the United States?
Certainly they went all over the United States, but so, this local group, as I said, were descendants of those who landed here in Connecticut and made a life in Connecticut, whether that was through setting up and owning their own business and passing that along to the children, or just developing their lives here. So the numbers, we're lucky that, the survivors certainly that we have today that can go into the schools and speak to the students, obviously were children during the Holocaust. So they have a unique story to tell, but they are in their late 80s to mid 90s now. It sometimes becomes more difficult for them to come in and speak. So we can arrange anything. If a student wants to do research and speak to a survivor, we can do that over Zoom in many different ways. FaceTime, we can make that connection as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. The museum that you mentioned, do you think that'll ever come back to being a kind of in-person experience, or are you just sticking with the virtual at this point?
No, I think we want to bring that back. That was an incredible opportunity for students to come there. We would do other, classroom work on other topics. And we certainly have the intention, the mandate is for Holocaust and genocide education. So we are doing more with that, trying to really talk to folks. Some of those experiences certainly are, in a way, newer. The generation that went through the Bosnian genocide or the Tutsi genocide in Rwanda are maybe not there yet where they feel comfortable speaking about it. Certainly there's been that somewhat buffer of time, that our Holocaust survivors have opened up and worked with. So for those more recent genocides, we hope to create displays around survivors and descendants of those as well. And so we are looking at some point to create a larger in-person exhibit where we can. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. I think talking to, with some topics, obviously, if you do the Revolutionary War, you can't talk to anyone who went through, but the opportunity to speak to people who experience this horror, I think is a really powerful opportunity for students. So thank you so much for sharing this information.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.